everything crypto needs to be removed. No one cares what an NFT is. No one cares about wallets. No one cares about, seeing the XION token and trading that and things like that. People should just use credit cards, email login, and we need to have the benefits of crypto without the major complexities that come with it.
So what are we calling it instead? If it's not NFTs, wallets, blockchains, what are you calling it in conversations? Technology? Today's guest is Anthony Anzalone. He is the CEO and founder of XION. XION is a layer 1 blockchain that aims to be purpose-built for consumer adoption, aka removing all the crypto complexities that we're always complaining about in this space. I'm excited to talk to Anthony today about what's going on with the blockchain, how he's looking at institutional adoption, and more. Also, we're recording this at the Digital Ask Summit in New York. If you can't tell, we are surrounded by a lot of people, so apologize for the background noise, but think of it like ambient noise.
Yeah. It's soothing. It's definitely relaxed. It's that of a coffee shop energy.
It is. It's like a coffee shop. Yeah. It's like that person you're on a Zoom with, and you're like, hey, I really can't hear you.
Sorry about the background noise.
Exactly. Anthony, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
To start off, I remember you from maybe your Burnt Banksy days.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into this space and the role that you're in now?
Yeah, absolutely. I got into this space in 2016, back when Consensus was kind of first popping up here in New York.
Yeah.
Got kicked out of my college dorm rooms for mining Ethereum. And honestly, at that point, it was just game over. But I would say that my professional career really started with arson. I bought as most people do.
Like fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so I bought a Banksy art piece. I lit it on fire, sold it as an NFT, which ended up being the highest price NFT at the time, broke all the records. And for all of 2021, highest average price NFT sold on OpenSea.
Wow.
Yeah.
What made you want to do that? Also, where did you get the Banksy?
Yes.
And were you sad when you burned it? Or you were like, this is another creation of art on top of art?
So I got it, Park Gallery in Chelsea.
I know that gallery.
Yeah. No, I was really excited. I was petrified. If I'm being really honest, like the real answer, when I was lighting it on fire, I was absolutely petrified. But I believed in NFTs. I believed in what I was doing. And I had no idea it would get to where it is today.
So NFTs to blockchains, what made you decide to kind of maybe expand your horizons into building a layer 1 blockchain?
We actually first started trying to build a decentralized NFT marketplace back in the day, because no one could use OpenSea, and you had to download a wallet, and you had to bridge, and you had to do all these complexities. Unfortunately, it's not very different now.
Yeah.
And we thought we could solve this on the application layer, but it ended up being an infrastructure issue. And so XION was born.
Okay.
Yeah.
And XION's focused on being consumer adoption friendly.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of people say that.
Everyone do. Something that we'll say that no one else is we're onboarding the next billion users.
Oh, I've heard that saying before. I've heard it. But okay, what does it really mean for you guys?
Yeah.
What's different?
We believe that to get to Web 2, we need to meet them where they are. And so everything crypto needs to be removed. No one cares what an NFT is. No one cares about wallets. No one cares about, seeing the XION token and trading that and things like that. People should just use credit cards, email login, and we need to have the benefits of crypto without the major complexities that come with it.
So what are we calling it instead? If it's not NFTs, wallets, blockchains, what are you calling it in conversations? Technology?
It depends what it is. If it's a ticket, it's a ticket. If it's art, it's art. If it's a game, it's a game.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a world for the jargon and the complications, but if we're reaching a mainstream audience, I don't care if I'm going to go see Jacquelyn in concert. I don't care if my ticket's an NFT. I just want to hear Hot to Go.
Exactly. I also think, though, with these NFTs, there's also like the ability to go back and be like, hey, I went to that Jacquelyn concert years ago. I was an OG fan.
Yeah.
And now
before
suddenly,
the Lollapalooza.
Yeah. And now I could get rewarded for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's about finding the benefits outside of being an NFT for NFT's sake.
Yeah.
Such as what you said. Like, I was a Jacquelyn fan. I went to 30 of her concerts. I was there before she blew up. And even after that, like, I was still there. And, imagine even a world where Jacquelyn is like, okay, people who went to 30 of my concerts, here's a concert for you. Like Fred again had.
Yeah, 100%. And then when it comes to normies,
yes,
quote unquote,
what we are.
Digital Asset Summit, we got people in suits here. What do they want? What do they want out of blockchains? What are the conversations like that you're having?
I think first and foremost is complete products. I think that there's been so long of these like excuses of like things don't work or things are really complicated or write down these 12 phrases. But, you know, a lot of, I think where we see growth is similar to, and it was going to sound pretty large, but very similar to the Industrial Revolution and how patents were kind of the real big spur of it where, you know, a lot of people were finally able to be recognized for their work. Now we have this Industrial Revolution, but in an internet era where property, whether it be intellectual, monetary, or physical, can now spur growth on a global scale. And I think that's really, you know, you bring everything down. You go DeFi money, you go tickets, shop around concerts, physical assets, right? I want to know what I own, and I want it to be universally recognized.
When it comes to ownership, I feel like the average person outside of the crypto industry understands it from the perspective of situation with like Facebook.
Yeah.
Early on, we were totally cool with throwing everything onto Facebook, all our photos, our information, where we went to school, where we went to college, where we work, everything. And then suddenly it was like, whoa, they have a lot of information on us.
They know everything.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, no surprise. And
look at like, I think AI has really been this catalyst for the need of this, where you had this, or you had a bunch of people bringing their artwork onto Web2 platforms only for that to be used as the training data for some of these AI products. And they're not getting rewarded for that.
Yeah. And so how do you think about ownership when it comes to XION and making sure that those who use the blockchain actually are not dealing with situations they might have seen in Web2 or something?
I mean, it's being able to bring the benefits of blockchain without all like the technical jargon, right? Like you can still use Uber Eats to get a hamburger that's hot. And there are things that you care about, which is like getting my hamburger that's hot.
Yeah.
But then there's things that you shouldn't really care about, like what database it's hosted on. And I think being in crypto, both of us for quite some time, you've seen a lot of the showcases of these things, like Bored Ape Yacht Clubs. I can tell who owns a Bored Ape and who's just screenshotting it and putting it on Twitter, right? And so being able to do that for masses is really what we do here at XION.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I also think about it from like the perspective, I always joke, like whenever I order something like an Uber or DoorDash, or I even open up like Instagram, I have no idea how it got on my screen or how it got to my apartment, but it got there.
Yeah.
And that's really, and I always say this is how blockchain should work.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah. So that's what we're working on.
There's also the institutional side that I know XION is focused on. Can you kind of walk us through why that's so important to you guys and what you're thinking about there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of what crypto was built for was this idea of taking tools that were made for an elite and distributing it to everybody. And I think the idea that we need to take these tools and distribute it to everybody, that's two sides of the token. And I think a good way to look at that is, let's say, RWAs or synthetic assets or tokenized securities if we really back in the day. But I think that there's a lot of asset classes that people who have capital want access to that they otherwise couldn't have access to. And so being able to have that supply while the demand is there is really, really important. And I think that we've seen it tried a lot in, like, as I mentioned, like there was the three things that I said were all the same buzzword back in the day.
Right.
Everyone's been trying to put real estate on chain forever, and trying to do a stock on chain forever. And I think that you've kind of had like this baseline ability, but there's no users in crypto. And the barriers to entry are so high. Yeah. Like realistically, I could probably see less than 200,000 real genuine users who want access to real estate assets. And so the balance of crypto for a while was really tilted because we had a lot of institutional focus, but we didn't really have the world connected like we needed.
Right. It's funny you say that because I do think maybe there's more than 200,000 users in crypto, but I do get your point that I think there's more potential maybe to bring in quote unquote normal people, institutions, those outside, and like show them how valuable it is. And it could like maybe elevate what they're working on or expedite things, make it better. When it comes to making private markets maybe more public, I think about kind of the situations with like KKR, Securitize, et cetera, where they're bringing like these funds on chain.
Yeah.
Do you think about that? And if so, what's your take on those?
I think about it, but it's a lot of it is very much like, and I think my qualm with a lot of these, it's like, it's never going to be the best funds, right? Like, and I think that you looked at, I think when you have such wide access, the concept of scarcity is very, very important. And I think that maybe until we can get like farther down the line, you looked at like most, look at like Jim Simon's funds, and they were all private and internal, the ones that really, really succeeded.
Yeah.
And I think you get this aspect of scarcity in these kind of internal funds where once, the kind of the alpha is the scarcity. And if it's working, why would you want it to work for hedge funds? And it's a very unfortunate truth about a lot of these things. But, I think it's not going to be a real want. It's going to be a need at the end of the day, because you're going to get outpaced by pretty much everyone. And the amount of capital that is out there is going to absolutely pull over, where even if you're doing very good returns, you're being completely obliterated by everyone because everyone else has now access to this public market. So right now it's tough, but I think with time and more digital asset summits, we should hopefully see progress.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. I also know on the compliance front that XION announced recently that it was Title II EU compliant.
Yeah,
is that correct?
That's good.
That's good enough. Compliant.
Yes, compliant.
What does that mean?
That's a great question.
Let's start there. Because I saw the announcement. I'm like, oh, that's great. They're getting compliance.
Yeah.
And I feel like this, as does many people in crypto. It's like you see an announcement, you like it, and you scroll on. But I want you to explain to us what this really means and why does it matter?
Yeah. We released a micro-approved white paper, which is pretty much guidelines that anyone who wants to be micro-compliant needs to follow. So that's published, that's out there, and kind of gone through 20-day process. And I think a lot of it is reminiscent of it just being a first step and being very symbolic. Like, it is the first time that we've seen regulation coming in.
Yeah.
And for us, a lot of it is we're excited for it. I've been building in this industry for so long, and it's been a game of whack-a-mole. And it's so nice to just get that feeling where the industry that you're working with is real, respected, and there's a future for it.
Yeah, I agree. So is there a European focus right now for the blockchain, or do you kind of see opportunities in other regions? Remember trying to move your assets between chains, watching the minutes tick by, wondering if your transaction would make it? Yeah, we've all been there. But here's the thing. While other bridges feel like taking the scenic route, Across is your express lane. Base, Arbitrum, Optimism, boom, boom, boom. Your assets move between them faster than you could say cross-chain. Across isn't just another bridge. When Uniswap needed the fastest, most reliable way to move assets cross-chain, they chose Across. Now, millions of Uniswap users are swapping between chains without even thinking about it, because that's how it should be. Whether you're moving assets yourself or building the next big thing in crypto, Across makes cross-chain feel like the same chain. No more scenic routes, no more complexity, just 2-second transfers between chains. Ready to join the express lane? Head to across.to and experience what bridging should have been all along.
Most of our I think a huge focus is like Lisbon, Argentina, Nigeria as it relates to product development and things like that. Just because, number one, Lisbon is such a hot spot for crypto. The beauty about crypto is just it's global by default.
Right.
And so Europe is one of our largest kind of places that we're entering into. And a lot of it is like we're still, the regulations are still kind of like, we're getting there. And so we're entering the space and we're entering it not necessarily with caution, but with kind of this optimism that the light will be kind of clearly out.
So that's Europe. And then Argentina, I spent some time there actually for a conference as well. And I noticed that the local economy is unfortunately not great.
Yes.
And even getting US dollars from banks, it's impossible. I had to go to like multiple banks to get cash taken out. And then they also have this massive transaction fee on it, or bank fee. And it's only a limited amount. You're not even allowed to take as much dollars as you want out.
Yeah.
And then I also saw the reality that some stands actually accept crypto. They accept payments, stable coins as payments. So for XION, I'm guessing that's exactly what you guys are targeting in Argentina.
The exact one. Same with Nigeria. I was talking to our CTO who is in San Francisco, and it's different. Like when you're trying to build a crypto product in San Francisco with an American bank account, you realize the privilege that you kind of have. And then some of crypto doesn't really make a lot of sense because you're really privileged to that. Mm-hmm. And I know that we're here in New York. I have an American bank account. I'm very privileged to that, but we have so much of our community. And I think that's where, the building really comes from is hearing the voices of the community and being like, hey, this is really important. And I think the way that I looked at everything, right? Like to have a global standard is where we need to start. And there's places like Argentina and Nigeria that we started out with, which is like, these are very clearly places where crypto as a very big baseline needs to be first.
Right.
And everything for us is like, everything's stablecoin denominated. You just use it. There's no volatility. Things are just, we want you to live your normal day, but on a global standard that's higher.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And then in terms of what you would like to see built on XION, with all of this in mind, what are the types of applications builders that you're looking for?
I'm looking for something new. I believe that there are 5 products in this industry total. There are DeFi, there's swaps, AMMs, NFT marketplaces, lending, borrowing.
Oh, 6?
Hold on. I don't think I got another one.
Okay, so there's 5.
There's 5. And then on different L1s and L2s. And, you know, we always need more L1s and L2s. That's what everyone knows. But, you know, you have the same 5 products, all. It was so funny. I was actually just talking to someone, and they said that they were I don't even remember, some DeFi marketplace, something, and they listed off like 6 chains. And my first question was, which one gave you the higher grant? Right. And that's the business model for a lot of projects in this industry.
Do you give grants for XION?
I hate grants.
So no grants.
No grants. We have an anti-grant program.
You know, Barachain does that as well, I was told.
I know. I love Barachain.
So what's the reasoning behind no grants? Essentially, you want people, I'll let you explain it.
We're happy to help. Like, I think there's happy to help. We're happy to make VC introductions. We had projects like NRS on our platform raising 5 million, and a bunch of projects raising right now. Number one, like, for a project, if this is like, you really genuinely want to change the world, $80,000 is amount. Like, it really isn't.
Well, it could give them a wage to work.
It's a wage to work, but I think like when you get started in the startup game, you need to hit the ground running as quickly as possible. And I think that like we're very fortunate to be in a position where we can work on this fundraising process, right? We can hit the market, we can hit it fast, and we can kind of run with it, build with it. But the issue is that like what you see with like, to your point, yes, it absolutely does give you a wage to work. But I think what you unfortunately end up seeing with that is the wrong types of builders who, like this person that I had spoken to, go from chain to chain, collecting the $80,000, hitting the base KPIs and then moving on to the next one.
That does make sense because it's not long-term. Grants are one and done typically. And then VCs, investors are maybe more long-term thinking. They might invest in future rounds, etc.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Building something sustainable.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. In terms of outlooks, what other opportunities do you see to bridge this gap that we have been talking about for so long between Web 2 and Web 3, or TradFi and DeFi? I think maybe we'd like put them all together and say, like, how are we really bridging this?
Whole products. Like giving people what they want.
Yeah.
Without, it's really, it's funny. It's really, really difficult to sell crypto without crypto. Because what you end up noticing that happens a lot, especially in this industry, is that the actual value simply comes from the fact that it is crypto.
Right.
Like my Chaperone bean.
So funny you keep bringing up Chaperone. I only know the Hot to Go song, but we've got the #1 fan here. We got to bring her on the show.
You need to bring Chaperone to crypto. That's the onboard. You want to know how we get the bridge? That's how we get the bridge.
Yeah, when she comes on.
There it is.
Okay, so the Chaperone ticket, what else?
Oh my God, there's so much. I mean, I think that, you know, I was doing this exercise of like, why would JP Morgan want to come on chain? And they wouldn't. Like, crypto is meant to take down JP Morgan. And whether it's we beat JP Morgan to the punch or JP Morgan is forced to adapt and accommodate, like that's going to be the battle that we see unfold. And a lot of that is going to be the energy in the building and everything that will work. But it's like, if we can actually give people a reason, that's incredible. And that's all that it is. And you really saw like the proliferation of the internet coming out of something like a Facebook, where what once was, how do we onboard people to Facebook who are already on the internet? Facebook flipped that and it's like, hey, our job is to get more people on the internet so that they can get onto Facebook. And it all comes from the fact of giving people what's.
Yeah. I feel like what people really want is to not get deplatformed.
Yes.
To own maybe their content, or, you know, have the choice to say whether or not that they're giving away their information. And then I also think about like quick payments.
Yep.
Like I have family in Europe, and like sending them money is like I have to wire them.
You go to Western Union. Yeah, it's like
it's crazy. And like
it's awful.
And I could say to them, hey, I could just send you crypto, and I'll be really honest, I don't think they want that right now.
No. Well, I mean, it's also like, and I think we'll get there, right? Like, we've really gotten now to a point where you can do that. Like, I remember the 2017 ICO projects that were raising completely in Ethereum getting absolutely decimated because stablecoins weren't really a thing yet, right? You're really starting to, I know it's a process, but like, I would say very recently, first of all, like for a while, crypto was more speculative than anything, right? And I think that once you got like a huge stable coin, and you're going to see the stable coin wars come out pretty soon, which I'm kind of excited for. But you're then getting like a bunch of off ramps. And, I think with regulation coming, that's been such a huge issue is, I mean, we've probably been debanked 5 times.
Really?
Yeah. And it's like,
totally because you're, wow.
Yeah. And I mean, even when the Terra stuff was happening, I remember how turbulent that was. Especially, I've seen plenty of friends' companies die just because 20% in Terra.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy. But now, do you feel better with the current administration and everything going on in the US?
I think we'll see. I really think it's I'm very, very excited for America. I'm very excited to see what happens. I think the regulation by enforcement was a terrible time.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy it's not like that anymore.
Yeah. So for XION, I know there is more of an international presence. What other hurdles do you kind of foresee in the near term and long term that you still want to like get over?
I need the segment of crypto to be bad or gone. It is so bad. I mean, you look at, I think there was some stat. I mean, how many people want to invest in Bitcoin, or like you even go on TikTok and you look up crypto and it's just XRP to the moon. Like that's the thesis of crypto. And it's like, I'm really excited for what people think about crypto and what we're actually building to kind of meet and see where that meets. But I think the definition of consumer crypto hasn't been defined yet. And I hope that we're the people to do it.
Yeah. You also joked earlier that there should be more L1s and L2s in this space, which is funny because you are the founder of another layer 1 blockchain. I know. So Anthony, what would you like yours to be known for that would differentiate it from the pack?
One of the things that we're collaborative. I don't want to play that game of we're going to get a grant from here and there and the blah, blah, blah. I don't want to. And like, we've done really good work. We call it chain abstraction. And a lot of it is like how our architecture is set up. We don't have wallets on our chains. So interoperability is super easy. But like we did this with Solana and AVAX and Injective, where you can, the test originally was minting an NFT on the other chain, but we're working with like TheraChain to do something cool eventually, once some interoperability stuff gets figured out. But the idea that you can use TheraChain through XION is something that's actually possible. And for us, the only thing that I care about is products. Like whether you are on TheraChain, whether you are on Base, it doesn't matter. You can have all the tools that we've built, plus the interoperability at an ease. And so being collaborative, like understanding that there will be more L1s. We're not going to win by being the only L1s.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone will be. And I think we're moving into a multi-chain world and positioning ourselves to be collaborative.
Yeah, I agree. I believe in the multi-chain world today. I think everything should be interoperable. I should be able to transact and do something on one chain and get to the other without even thinking about it.
I mean, one of the examples that I gave in like my white paper back in 2023 was effectively this idea of, you're on Base and just treating the internet as just kind of a layer, right? Similar to how you go from like Google to YouTube, going from I said Steppen back in the day, but when I wrote it, I said Steppen. But going from like Friendtech to Steppen as individual websites, and then not only like having to not bridge or anything, but just being like, oh yeah, let me just buy this. And whatever happens backstage be intense is whatever happens backstage. No one needs to really know about how it works.
Right.
But I believe in a world where you can just traverse the internet as if it's the internet.
Yeah, I agree. Anthony, last thing, you've been in the space since 2016.
Yes.
That is a long time.
Yes.
Can you leave our listeners with a piece of advice, something that you've carried with you throughout all those years?
Oh, I mean, it's going to be WAGMI. Like, I know that's so
We haven't heard that
2016.
term in a while.
I know, but it's carried me through. I mean, we're all going to make it. There's going to be ups. There's going to be downs. There's going to be random flukes. There's going to be really random spurs of luck. But as long as we maintain the vision and the ethos and we don't give up, I mean, not to be cheesy, but we're all going to make it.
I love that.
Yeah.
All right, Anthony, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
on today.
It's amazing
Pleasure.
to be on. I've been honestly following your work for a very long time. So I'm very
I
excited.
appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thanks.